Alright, this is a video about my method for setting up the Alesis Trigger I/O with percussion triggers. I'm using the drums from the Alesis USB Pro Kit, but this should work with anything that you could plug into the Trigger I/O. Alright, so in the Trigger I/O, you will see that there are two triggers you can hit. We have one light if it's on, I think, the tip of the cable, and then we need to get the ring of the cable, but you see I'm not getting two lights. So you can, with the gain of 20 for one trigger and 0 for the other, the best way to go about this is to hit the bottom. So you see now we're using the other trigger, which is technically supposed to be the rim, but just hit the bottom. The idea here is that you play very delicately, but make sure that you hear something and see something on screen. With a threshold value of 64, you're going to be dropping a lot of notes. You can't play softly and get anything to happen. But if you set the threshold value too low, then you're going to have problems with crosstalk and false triggering. So what is a good value? It's dependent on your own personal style, and it's dependent on what kind of trigger you're using, but in general, keep that as high as you can to avoid problems with crosstalk. The idea here is to get the greatest dynamic range you can. So we already guaranteed that the quietest notes that we want to play are going to be coming through at some velocity level above 0 by setting the threshold value appropriately. But at this point, the dynamic range that we have to control is very limited. So if I play softly, I'll get a high MIDI value, and if I play loudly, I'll get the same high MIDI value. So what we need to do is decrease the gain. But you need to make sure that you're still able to get the high MIDI values, otherwise you're not taking full advantage of the very limited dynamic range of MIDI of 127 values, where in the real world it's infinite, basically, how much dynamic range you have. Once again, this is going to be dependent on the kind of trigger you're using and what your personal style is as to what gain value you're going to be using. I have tried some more methodical ways to adjust crosstalk setting to be absolutely perfect, but I've actually found that it's not really worth doing. First of all, what does crosstalk mean? Well, if you increase the crosstalk value of any trigger, it means that if you play another trigger loudly, any other trigger loudly, then you can't play that trigger quietly at the same time. So if you have a high crosstalk value for even one trigger or more, then anything that you use that high crosstalk value for is not going to always sound when you want it to. It's going to be kind of unpredictable. So that's not natural. But having, hitting this to be your snare drum and getting your crash cymbal to go off, that isn't natural either. So you just have to make a compromise between those two problems. But if you set up the gain and the threshold properly, you probably will be able to keep crosstalk at 0 for a lot of things and not actually have any issues, as long as you're not like kicking your kit. That'll send vibrations through everything. So I recommend just playing the thing when you're recording or when you're playing live or whatever you're doing, and if you're hearing sounds go off that you don't want to have going off, then for those triggers that are associated with those sounds, just increase the crosstalk value. So that's my method for getting the Trigger I/O set up for a highly dynamic performance. Hopefully this will save a lot of fuss and tweaking for some people. If you have a method that you think is faster or easier, on which you could maybe submit to YouTube for us, I would love to see that. Thanks.